Close your eyes for a moment and think about the last dream you remember. Now consider this. Tonight, when you sleep, you won't be dreaming alone. Across the globe, billions of human beings will slip into the realm of dreams. And within that vast nocturnal landscape, something extraordinary might be happening. What if your dreams, my dreams, and the dreams of every person on Earth aren't entirely separate experiences, but threads in a larger tapestry of shared human consciousness? This isn't fantasy. It's a profound question at the intersection of psychology, philosophy, and perhaps our collective destiny. Stand on any mountaintop and look across the landscape. Different terrains, different ecosystems, different weather patterns, yet all part of one interconnected planet. Could our minds work the same way? Seemingly individual, yet fundamentally connected through invisible threads of shared consciousness? The idea seems almost too vast to grasp, yet there's compelling evidence that beneath our individual awareness lies something deeper, something shared. When a symbol appears in cultures separated by oceans and millennia, when stories follow the same patterns across civilizations that never met, when millions of people respond to an idea or image they've never consciously encountered before with recognition and resonance, we're witnessing something remarkable. We're seeing echoes of what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, and it might hold the key to humanity's future. In the early 20th century, Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung made an observation that would change psychology forever. Working with patients from vastly different backgrounds, he noticed they described similar dream symbols, mythological themes, and psychological patterns that they couldn't possibly have learned from their personal experiences. A patient who had never studied mythology would dream of symbols identical to those found in ancient cultures. Someone with no knowledge of alchemy would spontaneously produce imagery matching medieval alchemical texts. Jung proposed a radical explanation. Beneath our personal unconscious, our individual memories, traumas, and experiences, lies a deeper layer he called the collective unconscious. This isn't learned or acquired, it's inherited, built into the very structure of the human psyche. Within this collective unconscious exist archetypes, universal patterns, symbols, and characters that appear across all human cultures throughout history. Think of archetypes as the psychic equivalent of instincts. Just as birds instinctively know how to build nests without being taught, humans instinctively recognize certain patterns and respond to certain symbols without cultural conditioning. The mother archetype appears in every culture as the nurturing, life-giving force. The shadow represents the dark aspects of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. The hero embarks on transformative journeys from the Epic of Gilgamesh to modern cinema. The trickster disrupts order and reveals truth, from Loki to Bugs Bunny. These aren't just interesting cultural observations, they're evidence of a shared foundation to human consciousness. We don't just share DNA and brain structure, we share a common psychological architecture, a collective dream space that transcends individual experience. This collective unconscious doesn't exist in physical space, but in what Jung called the psychoid realm, a dimension where psyche and matter intersect, where symbols have power, and where human consciousness connects to something larger than itself. The hero's journey is perhaps the clearest window into the collective unconscious. In 1949, mythologist Joseph Campbell published The Hero with a Thousand Faces, demonstrating that hero myths from cultures across the world follow an identical pattern. The hero receives a call to adventure, initially refuses, crosses a threshold into an unknown world, faces trials and allies, confronts their greatest fear, achieves transformation, and returns home with knowledge to benefit their community. This pattern appears in ancient Mesopotamian epics, Greek mythology, Hindu scriptures, Norse sagas, Native American legends, and African folktales. No cultural contact needed. The pattern emerges spontaneously because it reflects a deep structure within the human psyche itself, the archetypal journey of psychological transformation that every human potentially undergoes. Fast forward to modern times, and the pattern persists. Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, Moana, Neo from The Matrix, all follow the same archetypal journey. Audiences worldwide respond to these stories with profound recognition because they're not just entertainment, they're myths, speaking the language of the collective unconscious. We recognize ourselves in these journeys not because we've learned to, but because the pattern resonates with something built into our shared psychic structure. Consider global movements that sweep across humanity seemingly overnight. The Arab Spring, Black Lives Matter, #MeToo. These weren't centrally organized campaigns, yet millions of people in different countries simultaneously felt compelled to participate. Yes, technology facilitated communication, but the underlying resonance, the recognition that, this is my story too, that comes from the collective unconscious. We recognize archetypal patterns of the oppressed finding voice, the shadow being revealed, the old order dying to make way for transformation. Even artistic movements follow this pattern. Impressionism, Surrealism, Abstract Expressionism, These didn't emerge from individual genius alone, but from collective shifts in how humanity was seeing and experiencing reality. Artists across different countries, often unaware of each other's work, simultaneously began expressing similar visions, because they were tapping into changes occurring in the collective unconscious. Now let's leap to the present moment and consider something unprecedented in human history: the Internet. For hundreds of thousands of years, the collective unconscious operated slowly, changes rippling across generations through myth, ritual, and art. Information spread at the speed of travel, and collective shifts took decades or centuries to manifest. The digital age changed everything. We now have a technological nervous system wrapped around the planet, connecting billions of minds in real time. Social media, the internet, global communications. These technologies don't just share information, they create a new kind of collective consciousness operating at light speed. We're witnessing the birth of what some call a digital collective unconscious, or perhaps the acceleration and amplification of the original collective unconscious Jung described. Consider memes. Not just funny images, but the concept Richard Dawkins described as cultural information that spreads and evolves like genes. A meme can originate anywhere on Earth, and within hours be recognized by millions worldwide. But the most powerful memes aren't random. They tap into archetypal patterns. The distracted boyfriend meme resonates because it reflects archetypal dynamics of desire and betrayal. Woman yelling at cat works because it touches archetypal patterns of conflict and incomprehension. Viral trends reveal even more. When millions of people worldwide simultaneously participate in a challenge, adopt a phrase, or respond emotionally to an event, we're seeing collective consciousness in action. The global outpouring after tragedies like Notre Dame burning or the death of beloved public figures shows how quickly shared emotional responses can synchronize across the entire planet. But here's the crucial question. Is this digital realm creating new archetypes or merely amplifying existing ones? The influencer, the troll, the hacker, the doxer. Are these genuinely new archetypal patterns emerging in collective consciousness? Or are they digital manifestations of eternal archetypes like the sage, the trickster, the magician, the shadow? Perhaps both. The digital collective unconscious operates as a feedback loop. Ancient archetypes manifest through new technologies, but those technologies also create new contexts that potentially birth new patterns in the collective psyche. We're living through a transformation of human consciousness itself, and nobody fully understands where it's leading.